Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to give my opinion on how to start reading Junji manga. From my point of view, there are three types of readers who may be interested in Junji Ito's manga, and they are readers into short horror stories, long horror stories, or just knowing his iconic characters. I'm going to start with the ones who are interested in his short horror stories, like me, since I think this is the best order, and I'm going to do my best and introduce you to his manga and give you an order which may help you getting started. First manga I recommend is my favorite from Junji Ito, and one of my favorite in general, Manu Kakera. This one is absolutely one of my favorite for several reasons. Of course it has one of my favorite stories, like Dissection Girl, Blackbird, and Whispering Woman. Weird, disturbing horror stories that are entertaining, especially Blackbird. Didn't think Junji Ito would make it complicated like that. It also has a beautiful cover that I love seeing in my bookshelf, and it honestly looks better than all of his other manga. Lastly, I'm going to mention its lower price, comparing it to his other manga, which is a good thing for starters to know if they are interested in his works or not without paying more than 11 euros. Next is Shiver. This one is my second favorite from Junji Ito stories because it also has one of my favorite stories, Hanging Blimp, Marionette Mansion, and The Long Dream. Also, it will introduce you to two popular Junji Ito characters, Fashion Model and Tommy and Painter. Not only that, but it does give you exclusive commentary on each chapter with sketches, which is interesting, for me at least. And this one also is one of the cheapest ones from his works, Frankenstein. This one is the third on my recommendation list for several reasons. First of all, it has a longer story which is Frankenstein. Well, it's not one of his best long stories, but it's good enough to feel the difference between his shorter and longer stories. It's just about Frankenstein, which everyone knows, I think. I never read the origin story, but I think this one is a bit different from it. But overall, it's a good read with good art. Not gonna lie, I skipped this first story. I read it after finishing the other short stories in this manga. The first 6 chapters after Frankenstein are short stories about one of Junji Ito's characters, Ushikiri. Well, he's not popular as Tommy or other characters, but his stories are really good in my opinion. I may sound crazy and weird after admitting that I literally was clapping after reading each chapter of these stories. I mean, it's just amazing. Its art and story are really good, and they definitely made me feel a bit nervous, which I'm honestly not used to while reading horror manga. They make you always want to know what's going to happen in the next page. The last chapters are not bad, they're short and weird, but in my opinion, you kinda would feel this manga finished after those Shikiri stories end. They are like extra stories. In this manga, my favorite chapter is Penpal. After these 3 books, I'm going to leave the choice for you to choose what you are looking for, since by then you should have a good idea about the world of Junji Ito. Keep watching the video if you're interested, because you'll get a better idea about the mangaka of course, and you will see if the longer stories are something for you or not. Plus you can always make your own order. I'm here just giving my opinion after all. If you are used to longer stories and want to give Junji Ito a try, then I'm going to recommend you to start with one of his popular manga. If it's not the most popular one, it's Uzumaki. This manga is definitely good, a really strange story which will leave you confused. It's famous for a reason after all. Its art is good and it will make you wonder what's really happening in this world where everything turns into spirals. In this manga you will for sure get to know Junji Ito's crazy weird story and art. I honestly feel like I need to reread Uzumaki since I finished it in 2017, because I have read several horror manga these past years and several ones are really good. As I remember it, it was a good read, at least when you are first starting out with Junji Ito or even horror. Second manga I'm going to recommend is Gyo. Well, to be honest, Junji Ito doesn't really have many long stories, especially published in English. Most of his works are the one chapter stories collection. Anyways, this one is also a good manga, but not good enough, I guess. It starts really well, but later it loses its charm, and then after that it gets good again, but the ending, as usual with Junji Ito in his longer stories, he's honestly not that good at ending his stories, in my opinion. Well, I still recommend this manga after all. I'm not saying it's not worth checking out, plus you get 2 extra stories, and oh man, the last story is one of my favorite, of course. The Enigma of Amigra Fall. I honestly felt bad after finishing this chapter, since I kinda was disappointed with Gyo. Anyways, this short read story makes you feel uncomfortable, so it's definitely worth a read. Hellstar Remina. Since it's going to get published in English in December this year, I'm going to include in this video. This one is maybe better than Gyo, so if you're watching when it's already published, just start with the one you think is better, but I would recommend Remina. This one is also a strange story, as always, which revolves around an unknown planet. An astrologist discovers and decides to name it after his daughter's name, Remina. After discovering it, weird things happen. If you finish these 3 manga, you may want to decide what you want to read next. Random short stories or get to know his famous characters. To get to know his iconic characters, I recommend starting with Shiver because it's a good story connection, so it will make sure to keep you interested in reading more. And of course it has 2 of its popular characters, fashion model Tommy. What's good about starting with this one is that you will know what awaits you from the Tommy story connection. If you have checked its price, it's probably the most expensive manga from Junji, so you probably don't want to just buy it if you're not that interested. And yeah, it's just a big collection of stories of Tommy, just like the one you will find in Shiver. Second manga I'm going to recommend is Smashed. This one has voices in the dark chapters, and of course what you're looking for, Suishi, who is also pretty popular. I think the most popular one, or the second one, because of Tommy. This manga also has one of my favorite stories, which are Blood-Sucking Darkness, In Mirror Valley, and Library Vision. And yes, Tommy and Suishi are my favorite characters, but their chapters are fun to read. Speaking of Library Vision, this chapter is really mysterious, leaving us with several questions. I'm really interested in doing a video talking about my several theories of some of Junji stories, especially this one. If you're interested, maybe you can write in the comments or which chapters you are interested in hearing my opinion on. And yeah, I'm not going to read theories from the internet, that would be stupid in my opinion. After this one, you can go for Frankenstein. If you're interested in Yoshikiri and his good story collection, but to be honest, I don't really think he's that popular if you care about what's mainstream or not, cause I obviously don't, and I definitely love his collection. After this, you can decide what you want to read. If you want to get more of Tommy, then you just read his story collection for example. Speaking of Tommy, now I want to talk about all the other manga I didn't mention, which are published in English. I'm gonna say sorry for some Junji fans, but I don't really like Tommy's connection story. I'm sorry again. Some stories are good, but after reading some chapters, it gets repetitive. Maybe you shouldn't focus on finishing Tommy once you start reading it. And for example, just read one chapter whenever you feel like you want to read Tommy. But that's not what I did. And it really felt repetitive and boring sometimes. This collection is definitely overrated in my opinion. Next is Junji Ito's Dissolving Classroom. I don't have much to say about this one, but what I remember is that it was an okay read. Was disappointed and just sold it. Well, if you want to give it a try or you enjoyed it, good for you, I think. This is just my opinion after all. Last but not least, we have Junji Ito's Cat Diary, Mu. This one isn't horror, but basically a manga about Junji Ito's life with his cats. And since he's a horror mangaka, expect some funny drawings. I really recommend this manga, especially if you're a cat person like me, but it's definitely not horror, it's just cute. Well, I hope this guide helped you to know how to start getting into Junji Ito's world. As I said, it's definitely just my opinion on how it's better to start reading. From my point of view, it's better to start with his short stories, since that's what he mostly does. Having several horror collection stories. But of course you read what you enjoy after all. One last thing I need to say is, if you still didn't watch his horror collection anime, please, and please do yourself a favor and don't ruin your manga reading experience. If you love anime, just watch it after reading the manga. What you can do is just take a look at each episode's chapters, since each one has 2 stories, and check if you have read it or not. And when you watch the anime, you can see the big difference and maybe thank me for this later. In the end, I want to say, if you made it this far, I really thank you. And if you like this video, maybe drop a like and subscribe if you didn't subscribe. If you know anyone who likes Junji too, maybe share this video to him or any manga friends you know, cause that will help me a lot and encourage me to make more videos like this where I talk about horror manga genre. And feel free to just write in the comments anything you want to say about this video or any suggestion you have. And also you can private message me in Instagram. I'm fine with that as well. I just want to thank you again. You guys are the best and see you in another video. Bye.
Goth Boy Clip.
Hold on, baby, could you wait here? Promise I'll be right back, I'ma catch a flight back.